Ooh, I just had another brilliant idea. I was doing some demonic thinking right now. I was watching this video, and essentially, I already arrived at understanding that it's basically, somehow a witch, that was able to, I don't know, I guess mingle with my soul or whatever. And everybody was okay with it at first, nobody cared, especially because, the whole entire time, what was happening behind closed doors was all that mattered. So all of a sudden, now that there's changes to the environment because new variables were introduced into the equation, so the whole equation, the whole outcome and result varied and altered. And so here we are, though, now having the warlocks here, talking to the witch who basically got me to embrace my masculinity as well as my femininity. And the warlock who understands man was programmed to be a certain way and react a certain way and carry a certain behavior internally, at least your typical man. And this is because, again, you have the internal working being manipulated. So through the internal working, not only do you arrive at, being that the feminine is what's judged within us. So you separate us from the feminine within, thus outside what's within, as within, so without, So outside, that same expression becomes, the same thing. You start treating, like you treat your feminine inside, you treat the feminine outside. So, and this was the whole thing, was getting you to get twisted in this way so that creates the whole conflict, So that's essentially why these warlocks are here consistently attacking me, talking about femininity, because essentially what I did is I stood up for my feminine inside of myself. And so within myself, there isn't that conflict. But to the typical man, there is that conflict. So the warlocks are here constantly poking the bear, poking the bear. So every time I've lashed out, I've been lashing out at these warlocks that don't want to leave this witch alone, who her job is just to do what she does, But here are these warlocks trying to believe the contrary, so trying to give themselves hope or trying to make something seem as if it's not, So it's basically saying, am I already dead? Am I already gone? Am I already a lost thing, And essentially, we're all here because we all agreed that we are all lost things, So now that we're being walked and, held by the hand and basically carried through their parts that we can't even walk ourselves through, here we are. Essentially we're magnifying each other in a different manner, in a different way, showing each other different sides of ourselves that all along we knew were there, and we even knew the steps and phases of ourselves that led it to being where it's at, the way it is, and thus perceivable or held in a perception within the context of what, expresses it or it gives its impression. So essentially, that was the whole internal war. This is what you had me sum up right now, because you're basically filling my spirit with heavenly information and expecting my fleshly body to not be aware of it. But my body and my spirit are constantly in communion. They're constantly talking, despite all the things that you wanted inside of me to create conflict and separation within myself, essentially, the aspect, is it's now basically more in the open, so all the power you've seen that you had, all you did is you came and you showed us, so now, how do you think we feel? We were told that we should live blind and feel safe when we're blind. But here you guys show up and you bring us to see and live in our truth, which is nothing wrong with that. That's what I think you're supposed to do. But we've been conditioned to do the opposite and react and respond. And not only that, but have communication and relationships with each other in a different mode and state of being, So in this process where you're here bringing us to connect, and you want to so focused and concentrated on the conflict rather than the connection, and that's essentially what this is all about. So again, you're here insistent upon elaborating and freeing more people, while I'm here like, hey, you guys are crying about this. What do you say we put a moment on hold? Or gather ourselves and in our stillness, figure out what motion should actually consist of and how we should actually embody and, basically project ourselves out into the world and amongst each other, to each other, But here we are, it's having to juggle all the things that heavenly are happening in the heavenly bodies while we're here trying to live down to earth. So our minds keep dragging us up to think about heaven, while our bodies keep telling us, nah, stay down to earth. Let's go eat, let's go walk, let's go talk, let's go make another video, let's just practice being ourselves, let's enjoy the motion of existence and, be found in the motion, and so let's carry on with action, and that's how we maintain, but essentially it wasn't the plan, the whole plan is, again, heavenly things are taking place, physical things are taking place, and you would rather have us separated, having each other question each other when we should be having answers for each other, not questions. Like, what the hell is a question? It's like me sitting here and asking myself, hey, do you know what a question is? Of course, I mean, I'm the thing that carries it. I'm the thing that is that thing that is that, and in itself, of itself, to itself, for itself, and also for more than itself, So with that, I mean, here we are, 10-second time is the guy who's teaching you. So if you ever thought a forgetful person was not worth being around, or if a person that you might have found judgmental, inner workings, labeled or carrying or managing a certain, we'll just call it territory for the moment, and so in this side of yourself, you have to see this, and separate it from yourself so as to understand how it was that you were managing it and not including yourself. And then now that you see the differences and the things you can do, then you're able to honestly, without having to question, know that you're capable of the movements and actions and, required, inputs for the outputs, and so outcomes and results. But again, essentially, yeah, it is about being crazy, because the whole world right now, like I said, I stood up for gay, only because, again, I understood what to me it meant, and I knew what I wanted it to mean to me, and I didn't waste time asking anybody else what they felt, even though clearly I probably knew. I was raised to probably feel the same way, and I chose different, So it's like at the edge of everything, at the edge of the universe, at the edge of yourself, at the edge of what society knows, at the edge of what they've accomplished, at the edge of all your current experiences, And so, it's like, hey, I mean, it's just like saying, did you even know that the word, gay exists already in your mind, or the word, let's just say, conspicuous, and essentially, I mean, it's no different. It's just attempting to hold something, and we all know with all the words in the world, we can't hold diddly this squat for the most part, unless we trust in he who it is that we put our faith in, because essentially that's the only means by which anybody can hold anything. So this is where we're at right now, but again, it was more about, you guys want me to scare the world? You want me to tell them a great story? I wanted to make it into a movie, something awesome, creative, but not this fucking thing you guys used to brush off, to, look as irrelevant, or, I mean, but without really having the, label it or put a name to it, it's just simply, I mean, for the most part, again, 10-second time, dude, I mean, it is what it is. If you've essentially understood it to be, but, I mean, it's entertainment, That's what brought us all to anybody or anything, anywhere, for any reason. It was the entertainment that we found. And if that's where I've learned to live, and that's where I've learned to be able to not only carry the weight of the world, but find it entertaining as well, then that's who I'll be. I am entertainment, So when you show up, you know what you're showing up, and being embraced by, you don't bring nothing, you don't need nothing, you show up perfect, and even your imperfection shines perfect, so just be entertained. Thanks for y'all time, man. Hopefully you guys are having a good day today. I mean, it's a little, I suppose, less sunny, but hey, it's still a pretty nice day today. It feels fresh and refreshing. Yeah, have a good rest of the day. Thanks for your time. I appreciate y'all too.